Hey guys, welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Brittany. This is Brit's Books and Beauty, where we celebrate all things beauty and our favorite books. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for checking back in. Today is a very exciting day. We are going to be reviewing our very first novel of 2021. Oh yes, first month in, and we are keeping to our New Year's resolution. So, our very first novel was A Memory of Violets. This was written by Hazel Gaynor. She is the author of one of my very favorite books that I read last year, which was The Girl Who Came Home. And this one of hers is also was an absolute pleasure to read. It is a fictional story that follows a couple of London's flower girls, which were sometimes orphaned girls, sometimes just really, really poor girls that were often immigrants to England in the Victorian era. Mostly from my understanding, although I could be misinformed, it sounds like a lot of them were Irish immigrants. And at that time, Irish immigrants were not held quite in the esteem that they are today. So a lot of these families came over and they didn't have work, or the work that they could find was not enough to survive, let alone raise children. The girls that we are following, their names are Rosie and Flora. And then in a super interesting twist, the book actually has two different timelines that we will be following. One is in 1876, that's following Rosie and Flora, and the other timeline is in a slightly more modern 1912 with a young lady by the name of Tilly. And all three of these young ladies do have something in common, which I will not dive into because I do want you guys to read this book. Rosie and Flora are flower girls living on the streets. And, well, not really on the streets. They have a home. They have a shed, broken down shed for a home. And they start out with parents, and things kind of change. These girls started working at an extremely young age, and their way of helping their parents make money was to sell flowers in the slums, and they would sell them to whoever would buy them. These girls were part of a community of other girls and women selling flowers to make ends meet. And then in the winter time, when the flowers were not available, they would sell other things like watercress, which I don't know if that's like some kind of nut. The more that we get into the story, the more that we learn that the flower girls are often orphaned or disabled, crippled, injured. There's usually something about them that prevents them from being able to pursue normal service work. So often orphans or really poor individuals would go into a work, like a service type of work. So they would be maids, or laundry women, some sort of work servicing other people. But the ones that are crippled or disabled or just get sick and never really fully recover, they don't have those same opportunities because they can't serve people the same way as healthy, impoverished people. So Albert Shaw creates this environment for girls like that who don't really have other opportunities and puts them into his flower homes where they are taught to create silk flowers and sell them. So Rosie and Flora, their whole world shatters on one very eventful day. And Albert Shaw is kind of at the core of that. And then in 1912, Tilly comes along and she also has a connection to that whole world. And I'm not going to get too far into it because I do think that part of the fun of this book is watching those connections unravel. But I have to say, going back into how the book is written, normally stories with multiple timelines, they can kind of be a challenge to read, or they can be a challenge to kind of understand where you are. The way that she jumps back and forth is very clear. So I never was reading and I was like, who am I reading about? I was always very in the know about what timeline I was in. And everything was very clearly laid out. I think that if you are a big fan of fiction, if you are a big fan of historical literature, I think you're going to get a kick out of this book. It is very heavily centered around relationships. So familial relationships, friendships, you know, the bonds that people can make with other people, which I feel like in this day and age is kind of an important message to get across, is that we're all human. And this book kind of reminded me that, like, no matter where you come from, you can form bonds with other people that are going to help support you. And in particular, I think this book is going to be a really emotional read if you have siblings, and siblings that you are very close with. I also feel like people who maybe don't have those types of bonds that they are kind of rely on can also get something from this book, because this also goes into how you can just in general form other types of relationships with people to help you, to help support you, to keep you going. Humans are not meant to be solitary creatures. And I think that this kind of reminds us that we need each other. I just think it's a very versatile novel in a sense that I feel like anyone who likes to read, who's into fiction, who likes historical fiction, is going to get something from this book. On top of that, I absolutely love how much research this author does to get things right. So Albert Shaw is not a real man, but he's based on a very real man named John Groome, who was the actual facilitator of, or I guess creator, however you want to look at it, of the flower homes, which are very real places. These girls were missing limbs, missing eyes, they were blind, they were unable to care for themselves in the crazy world where no one was given a handout really, and he gave them a purpose. And I think that there's something very magical in that. So the fact that she took her time, she researched this person, she researched what these lives were like for these people living and working in these homes, and she turned it into something so relatable in modern time. And I think that that's a really special skill that she has, is to take something that happened so long ago. It's maybe the things that she writes aren't 110% accurate. They're not based entirely on real people, real events, but they're real enough, and they're pulling pieces of the past and she's bringing them forward. And I think that that is so cool. So I highly recommend this book. I would really love to know if you guys did pick up a copy and read it. Again, that's In Memory of Violets by Hazel Gaynor. 10 out of 10 would read again. So yeah, let me know, you guys, in the comments below if you decided to join me on this literary journey for January 2021. Moving forward, our next one I'm super stoked for. If you are not a fan of mystery or possibly scary, I don't know, I've never read it, then this might not be your flavor. But the next one that we're going to read is called The Silent Patient. This is by Alex Michaelides. It is about a patient that ends up in a psychiatric facility who has never spoken a word since the crime that they are accused of committing took place. And it's a story of a psychiatrist trying to break that wall down. At least that's my understanding of the book. So we will have to see as we dive into February. Again, that's The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I would love some friends for this journey. So highly recommend anybody who's interested in probably a little bit more of a sketchy book to join me. Otherwise, it is never too late. Even if we were in February, I would really love to know if anybody picked this up and loved it as much as I did. So please think about joining me. If you are unaware of the books that we'll be reading in 2021 and you want to do some research yourself, I will link the video for my layout of what our reading looks like for 2021 in case you missed it. That way you have an opportunity. So that'll be in the either in the comments or in the description. Will be a link to the very first video about what we're reading in 2021. That way if you feel like researching the novels and picking some up and joining me, that would be superb. Otherwise, just thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out. Again, if you're brand new, I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you plan on sticking around. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and please share. If you are a returning viewer, we're hanging in there. We're going to continue trucking along for 2021 and hopefully some new and more frequent content. So let me know in the comments below what you guys would like to see. Are you digging what we're putting out? Do you have other ideas? Speak to me. I do listen. All right, you guys, thanks again, and I will see you next time. Bye.